it's exciting to talk about JUNO 2.0 and all that we've been up to. I know you and your team have been really busy, and so we're excited to chat today about this topic of there's more you could be exploring with JUNO, new features. And I know that we're having this conversation today, but we're constantly adding new features. So by the time people even watch this or watch the recording, we may have more new features to add, which is
yeah, we're on 2.1 already, so we're already there.
Yeah,
but that two, yeah, that two at the start of it's significant. I mean, there was a reason that we bumped it a major version, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I love it. So to get us started today, yeah, we're going to be talking about new features, especially one of the big ones, which is our hybrid companion app, which we're really excited about. For those that I haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is Peter Hodgen. I'm the VP of Enterprise Partnerships and Sales here at JUNO. And with me is Gabe Casey, our VP of Product, calling in from beautiful Chicago, and I'm out in San Diego. So we're excited to get together and chat. So Gabe, let's dive in. Before we do, as always, our 7E culture here at JUNO, which we really are excited about every day, getting to be a 7E culture. So with that, would you do us a favor and kick us off reading one of these 7Es?
Yeah, let's do energy.
Love
we
it.
are the force that moves mountains. We are not the second most passionate person in the room. We are not the second most hopeful person in the room. And we are not the second most energetic person in the room. We are the wave people ride and the confidence and courage to dream.
Love it. That is who we are. And for those that maybe have had meetings with us or done demos with us, you may have heard one of our 7Es before. For those that maybe are new to JUNO, we read those at the beginning of every meeting. And so culture is really, really important here, that we're more than just a software company. We are a people company. These values are important to us, and we hope that they're important to you as well, and that you and your team get benefit from them. So with that, why are we here today? Let's talk about JUNO 2.0. This is a big leap for us, and it's something that we just launched here in the last 30, 60 days or so. Big leap in our feature set, and so I'm really excited, Gabe, to dive in. So let's talk about some of these things that we have, and we're going to go through each of these, but talking everything from group hubs to social feeds, discussion forums, brand new navigation opportunities, real-time analytics dashboard, which is super cool, by the way. I really like that. Structure of how we do events, as well as this concept of 365, year-round community sites. So let's kick it off with group hubs. Share a little bit about what are group hubs and kind of what was the purpose of creating this new feature.
Yeah, is kind of a collection of features really around groups. And the hub is that homepage or like a central location to access all that stuff. So when we say group, what we're trying to do is take, you might have a large audience that's on your event or your 365 site. And sometimes it's kind of too big. If I've got 5,000 people at a meeting, it's hard to get personal. It's hard to find my cohort or my birds of a feather, right? So a group is a way to break that down. And for a lot of organizations, that's like chapters or maybe a special interest group, sections. So whatever that is for your organization, about how you kind of segment your audience and your membership, it's a way to create really a smaller group that way those people have more in common and can really have deeper connections. So that group hub is a homepage for that. And it's a way like we can launch to a lot of features from that. There's a group feed, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, forums. But the hub is, again, that homepage I can show specific to that group. So I can personalize really for that audience, what's going to show on that homepage and give them, again, something for them to kind of, to be their jumping off point. So that might be if I've got a webinar or like a meetup coming up for that group. If I've got some piece of content or a speaker that is, of special interest to that group, I can highlight that on that page. And so it's really to take that world of content that you've got on the platform and then, personalize that down to that group so that we're really surfacing the content that they're interested in.
Yeah, and it does. It creates that more personal experience, right? Instead of maybe being at just an event with a lot of people or throughout the week or throughout the year, I can be focused in smaller groups with other people, which is really cool. So talking about that, kind of moving into similar, social feed and how we create interactions. I know this was a big one. This was really popular at PCMA. For any of you that attended PCMA Convening Leaders this year, this was launched at convening leaders, which we were really excited about. So share a little bit about the social feed. Again, something that I think people have come to maybe expect during an event, but I think one thing that's really unique is this is not just an event tool. So maybe share a little bit of how organizations can use this both during an event, but also just for continued community.
Yeah, and so the feed is such a basic concept that it almost feels like, geez, like is this just now getting to events? But it really,
Right.
it's a kind of it's a new concept in events, which feels like it shouldn't be. So the
Yeah.
social feed is at its heart is like what you see on Facebook, right? And that's their news feed and thing. It's a way for people to post, just kind of share their status. Share, I just saw this interesting thing, or post a picture of food or whatever it is that's interesting to them, and create that way where I can kind of broadcast, what I'm doing and what I'm interested in to the larger group.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, like I was talking about so we can have multiple feeds. So we have that global feed on a site that is everybody who's part of that site can see. And then we also have group feeds. So if I'm in a group, I have another feed that I can go post to that be my smaller audience. So kind of I can target a little bit. If I'm saying something that I want to get the widest, response and distribution to, I post on that global feed, but something a little bit more targeted that I think is going to be more of interest to those cohorts, those people that I'm more connected with. I can post that on that feed. So it's meant to
That's
be
cool.
kind of that, again, it's that thing of like on Instagram of just like, hey, here's this, I was just at this cool place or whatever, something
Yeah.
that like really, and it's amazing how much traction you at an event, and also even how much community that builds. I mean, we saw at PCMA, people even after the event, like, hey, who was that speaker that so and so, or even during the
Sure.
event, like, what's the Wi-Fi password? Because even though you publish it in a million places, everybody always asks that question,
Everybody
right?
always asks,
Yeah.
or where's the
So
after party? Where's everybody going?
yeah,
Right.
but it's kind of neat because you saw that community right away of
Hmm.
people helping each other out, and then so on that feed, I can I can reply, I can comment. Right, we can do all those kinds of things again that you're used to in all the social apps. But we've got that feed now on both the desktop and then the app. So that's another cool piece as well. We'll get into the whole mobile companion app in a
Yeah.
second, but
Yeah.
it's on both. So it's another great intersection point for those higher between the in-person and the live, or the virtual users. It's another way for those people to connect instead of two disparate and separate experiences. We're creating all these intersections. These are the connection points, and that feed is a great one.
Yeah. Love it. And similar to that kind of, I think taking the social feed concept and going one layer deeper is this idea of discussion forums. And I think one thing that's kind of right, social feeds, discussion forums have been around forever. We've all joined them over the years. Maybe you have a hobby and you're like, hey, I'm trying to fix this, old piece of equipment or something, and you join forums. What's unique about Juno forums? And there's some cool features that I really like about it, but share how we've taken that concept of discussion forums, added some new capabilities to that to make it really unique, both within an event as well as, again, the benefit of Juno is 365, right? You can
Yeah.
use this for all of your events, webinars, experiences, networking year round, which just creates a deeper connection. So let's talk about, discussion forums a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so discussion forum, where the feed is like more of a kind of a one way, like a broadcast. Like I want to like, hey, here's this thing that I'm doing, and if someone likes or replies, that's really cool. But you don't always expect that. It's a
Sure.
little bit more, it's a little more passive on the people reading it. Whereas the discussion forum is really a multi-way communication, but in an asynchronous way. So during an
Hmm.
event, we've got the chats that are in the sessions, and those are great because people are interacting in real time. But especially around 365, people are coming to the platform at all times, day or night, different days of the week, and they still want to connect. And so the forum really is that way to have a conversation about a topic, but in a more asynchronous way. So again,
Yeah.
where the feeds are like, hey, I'm eating pizza. The discussion forums are more like, I remember you talking about the first one I joined. I had a Volkswagen GTI VR6, and I was on a VR6 mailing list, and I learned all. It was so. There was really the sense of community. You could have these like elders that were on there that you could the
Yeah.
questions. And so it's exactly that. It's a way to create, connection between your users as well as creating that user generated content. We
Yeah.
talk about this a lot. Like the key to having that 365 site is you got to keep people coming back. And the way
Sure.
to do that is to keep putting up compelling content. That's a tall order. Like, how do I update a site
Yeah.
as an organization with a small staff? How do I update the content on a site every day? Discussion forums are a great way to do that. You don't have to do the work, right? The users are
Yeah.
doing that for you. They're creating interesting content and a place for for other people to engage with that. And it's like you just get it started and then it kind of runs
Yeah.
itself. So
Yeah.
yeah, so our discussion forums, on the app, desktop, topic based. So again, you might have like a general channel or like a random channel or something like that sometimes, but the intent really is to create something that is specific enough that people who are interested in that topic can go in there and really dive deep. And then I've got, I can create a new post. It's a certain subject, and then people can and the idea is just that thread, again, we're seeing this like on Reddit, right? So they get nothing new
Sure.
here. We're doing the same stuff.
Sure.
We're trying to create that. We want to have all those features here so people don't have to go to Facebook groups or go to Reddit. You've already got the audience and you want to be able to
Yeah.
create those connections between them.
Yeah, I love that. And again, Juno is always trying to help you as an organization minimize the number of softwares that you're using so you can maximize that end user experience. So with that, one of the things that comes with users using your platform more and more and more, not just for a single event, is data, right? And so one of the cool things with Juno 2.0 is our real-time analytics dashboard. Share a little bit about what this is. And I also know outside of just real time, we also offer some other analytics tools. And I know some people out there might really, really be into analytics. And this is a big deal to be able to gather all that data in one spot and kick out some cool results.
Yeah. Yeah. So the strategy that we're pursuing, so in Juno 1.0, really we're kind of, what we launched with was trying to have enough analytics on the platform, enough reporting on the platform that you could get what you want. And that's a hard target to hit because analytics, big data, you can go deep, right? And you need some pretty powerful and sophisticated tools to really do all that analysis. So we kind of did like a bifurcated, like a high-low kind of strategy. This one, the real time is like this is a small but really important piece, which is, again, I talk about like when you're in person and you want to know how many people, how's the trade show floor doing? You just go walk over to it, look at it. You're like, is it busy or not?
Just pop your head in, right?
Yeah. Pop your head. Like you can see, like there's people there or there's not.
Yeah.
Whereas, online, it was always, maybe your keynote, we have our session counter. You can see how many people are in the keynote, but I didn't know how many people were on the exhibitors or how many people were looking at library content or another type of content. So that's the point of the real time is like as an event organizer, are on the platform, what sessions are they in, what are people looking at, and I need to know that like every 5 minutes. I want to check it all the time.
Sure.
So that's the point of this one. It's a quick hit. I can click on each of those numbers that you see in that photo and drill down one more layer, but it's just that. It's just meant to be like what's going on right now. It's not meant to be how many people from Canada that are in the, it's like that. We're not answering those questions, but people want to ask and get answers to those questions. So that's the second part of the strategy is take that big data. And when I say big, we're talking millions of rows for a 4-day event. So it's definitely big data. And what we're doing there is, and we always have done, is track everything but what we're doing now is to expose that via an API that you can consume. So if you've got an analytics platform that you want to kind of bring your own analytics, we can hook up to that. And then we're also planning. Tana's making a joke in the chat, please. Threw me off here. No, 100% of attendees in panel. But we're working with Bear Analytics. So we are going to have a pre-built integration to Bear where they know exactly the way that our data is set up and do a really cool. And I've done a couple of demos of Bear with some clients, and I got a happy dance from one of them where they're like, yes, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So again, what we're doing is taking that big data, but the change in strategy, have the client download a CSV with 1 million rows in it, but to put that already into a dashboard where the actual analytics are done, where we're creating some intelligence out of it instead of just throwing raw data. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's just a huge thing because the amount of data as we were building this analytics thing and going to test it, it's like I do one thing on the platform and the analytics is actually tracking like 8 things that you did. So we really get into them. It's like just kind of amazing how much you get tracked. And then what you can do with that data. And if you've got a tag that says what kind of shirt they're wearing, if it's flannel or not, then we can answer that question for you.
Sure. Yeah. And speaking of questions, we're going to take a break. If you do have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button inside of this session. You can post your questions in there. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you have about things that we have already talked about, or maybe preemptively you have a question about something that we're going to talk about. So feel free to throw those in there. But while we're waiting for some questions to come in, let's keep moving on. So next we want to talk about this big move of technology of making it easy for hybrid and in-person events, right? We've all been to shows where we download an app and we use it for 2 or 3 days for a show, and it tells us who the next speaker is or where I can get a soda or, basic information, and then I delete it, right? It doesn't really enhance my experience for the show. And I think one thing that I really love about how we thought through this as a company is how do we enhance the experience for the in-person attendees as well as the at-home attendees during the show, but also beyond the show, so that that is a synchronized one platform versus, okay, I have an app for the show, I've got a desktop platform for my virtual, I have another platform for my on-demand content. Again, the whole idea of Juno to make that a lot easier. So in person, on the app, as well as online on the desktop or on the app. Share a little bit about this, and I know there's kind of four kind of key things we're going to talk about, and I'll just put up some screenshots on like engagement and schedule and join and things. But let's dive into this and chat a little bit about some of these different features and how you can use this mobilely.
Totally. And there's really, I kind of think there's sort of two things here, right? Which is one, what's in it for your customer? And that's always important. We've always got to have empathy. We can think about like, how have our customer in mind when we're building experiences and products. But I'm also going to come back and talk about what's in it for the meeting planner, because that's important too, right? What's in it for me? People always want, but we'll start with the good stuff, which is on the customer side, right? So one of the things I came from association, one of the things we always were trying to do is like, you get so much engagement during the event. And leading up to the event, there's a slow build, and then it's there, and it's the event day, and it's a big deal, and then it feels like it just dies off really fast. And so one of the questions was posed to me as a technologist was, how can we extend that? How can we kind of broaden the shoulders of that, even hopefully to a year, but at least just make it a little bit longer engagement time.
Yeah.
And one of the ways is to have that app because it continues on, right? And so that's I think a difference with the show app. A lot of times the focus was on like agenda and maps and wayfinding. It was really just about, it really became a replacement for the on-site guide. That,
Sure.
It used to be a printed program, and that's great. It's functional, but it was kind of just like taking something that was printed and making it digital, and boom, done. Right? It could have done that with like a PDF.
Sure.
But with the mobile app, right, we've got, I've still got the schedule. I can here, so I've got so much more that I can do, where I can chat, I can engage, and like I talked about before, those intersections between your in-person and your virtual attendees. That's, I think, one of the big deals. That mobile app was really just separate. If you were doing a hybrid event, the mobile app was yet another system.
Yep.
And so I didn't have that ability to connect those two audiences, whereas now I do. So I could be in the auditorium and I could still chat, but it's the same chat as the people that are at home. I can ask a question now. Right. Like, we used to have to do this with polls. Like sometimes you do poll anywhere and you tried all these different things. And like, it was just like a bunch of disparate systems. Now I've got that all in one system. So all of my attendees are having that same experience. And then again, if I continue to create content on the platform, that's all still available via the app. So I'm not giving people like another site to go to or another tool. And we're realizing that vision of like, how can I extend the engagement of my virtual event? Because it's all right here already in the app. So I think that's we're doing all the things that a mobile app does, and then adding in all the engagement pieces to keep people where they're still coming back to it because there's still cool stuff. And again, saw that with PCMA. Like I said, people 2 and 3 days after the show were like still talking about stuff, wanting to remember who a speaker was, and it was so cool to see that, because they were really starting of what's going on, rather than just, well, I built my schedule and downloaded my PDF, so I'm done.
Yeah. No, and I think being able to create that experience, especially coming from a technology background, I used to work in the mobile app world and build custom event apps. And we would always say, don't just build an app for your event. If that's your only goal, that's a part of the equation, but it's not the whole thing. And really, we want to say, how can we take your 1-day event or your 3-day event and turn it into an everyday experience? And I think if somebody is willing to take the time to download an app, put in their password or use their Face ID and actually download a piece of software, we want them to continue to use that. So use that as a portal wherever they are to not only access these things during the event, but come back and access on-demand content, come back and join forums, come back and network and chat with each other. So I think that's really cool. Again, if you have any questions, we haven't had any yet, so that means we're answering all of their questions just by what we're saying. But let's chat a little bit about just kind of final thoughts on Juno 2.0 and maybe some of the things even where Juno 2.1 and others are heading around this concept of 365 and single destination platform. What are some of the things that excite you coming from the association world and having experience in that? What excites you beyond just the walls of the event?
Yeah. So what I hinted at just a minute ago, and I said I'd come back to is, yeah. So having set up these apps and these platforms, the app was always a separate thing. It was yet another platform, and so we had to take the content that we were planning in our abstract management and our meeting planning systems, and I had to export that into the app. And then everyone knows if you're an event planner, you got like changes up until the day of. As much as you try to
Sure.
lock down your schedule,
Sure.
things change. People's event orders and stuff as the rooms are changing, stuff is always changing, and no, and the commitment, the time commitment on site to keep all the systems in sync was huge. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of times I'd wake up at like 7 in the morning and spend an hour doing that to get all the systems
Right.
updated. And I had some pretty slick processes going. It still took a while.
Yeah.
So again, I think cool things is to have that single platform and to be able to put your content in one place and have that used in so many different channels to your customer and eliminate some of the other platforms that you're having to keep in sync is just huge for a meeting team that again is already resource constrained, already has so much to do, is already working 13-hour or longer
Yeah.
on site. It's one thing to take off the plate and a really big thing. So I think that's the really exciting part is it's that single platform that's replacing a bunch of things that were different before.
Yeah.
And then take that further, that same concept, you kind of get back in the customer point of view, to have that platform where I was there for the meeting, you got me hooked on, and then now turn that into but they're still publishing content there, and
Yeah.
and switch that into that 365 and have that be kind of a seamless thing from the customer perspective. Have it not be totally separate experiences, but I've already got the app. I'm already familiar with the platform, and so now I just start serving content in an ongoing 365 way is just such a great thing, such a big change from, and I think answers a question that everyone's been trying to do for so long. I know it at the association I used to work at, this solves so many problems that it's really
Yeah.
exciting to see this all come to fruition.
Yeah. Love it. We do have a question that came in. Is there an API for Salesforce?
Short answer is yes. Anytime you say API, there's much longer conversation that needs to happen there.
Yep.
Yeah, we absolutely do integrate with Salesforce. A lot of times that's with Fontiva. That's the association management system built on top of Salesforce. So we do that all the time. But again, the question becomes, what do you want to integrate? Is it users? We've done where we're pushing CE back into Salesforce. We've done, the content pieces where we're pulling that out where there's content management systems that are built on Salesforce. So again, short answer is yes. Any integrations are always a longer conversation that's warranted there, but we're not there. We have a meta integration. We didn't,
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Well, Gabe, thank you for taking the time. I know you and your team are just constantly ideating and coming up with new things and also listening to our current partners and our future partners as we have conversations and hearing what else is out there. How do we continue to make Juno that year-round community? So thank you for everyone that joined. And yep, we saw the follow-up. Yep, about more details. Yeah, if you do have more questions or you have follow-up, please reach out to myself or to Gabe. We'd love to get on a call with you and chat more about your specifics, how you can use Juno for your events, for your networking, for your learning, how all of that integrates and works together. Again, Juno, we are a values-based company. So this is not just a piece of software we kick over to you and say, good luck. We're very human involved, and we want to have a conversation with you and help you solve some of those challenges that Gabe was talking about. Having too many softwares, having too many connection points can weigh down you and your team. And so let us come in and help you mitigate some of those challenges. So Gabe, thank you so much. I'm excited for our next session when we get to talk about the next version of Juno and even more features. And I know you guys are already have some stuff cooking. So we're excited. So thank you for taking the time. Appreciate you as always. And thank you everybody for joining. And we look forward to chatting with you soon.
Talk to you soon, guys. Always a pleasure,
All right.
Peter.
All right. Bye-bye.